Hey everyone, Voltage here. Welcome to an exciting matchup. This was my CAP Fall Autumn Tour. It's like the Autumn Seasonal Tournament. So I was matched up against Snorlax in the way. Snore, if you've been paying attention to any of my podcappy stuff. So let's get right into it. So I'm bringing a team of Mega Gyarados, or excuse me, not Mega Gyarados, regular Gyarados, Equilibra, Kartana, Heatran, Jumbao, and Torn. And he's got a Reach Zero team that he definitely didn't take from Reach Zero right before our fight. Right out of the gate, that's a Mega Latias, Toxapex, Equilibra core I see right out of the gate. And then you've got the Therian core that I always use a lot. And then this is likely Scarf Victini, I thought, going into this fight, just because otherwise his team is pretty slow, since otherwise his fastest member would be Tornadus. So right out of the gate, I was pretty sure this was going to be Scarf Victini, but I didn't want to make too many assumptions. I am Banded Cart and Scarf Jumbao, so this matchup wasn't great for me. But I figured I could probably win with Gyarados here. So let's just jump right into this fight. So he leads with Victini, and I lead with Torn. I mainly lead with Torn just so that I have a good pivot. I like to lead with pivots, so if you're C-teaming me for the future / scouting, that's generally what I tend to do. So he leads that. It's the Mirror B theme, by the way. He goes for a U-turn first, just confirming the fact that he is, in fact, Scarf. And I stay in as well and go for a U-turn just because... Snore is pretty conservative, I know that. So I go into my Equilibra, and I'm basically threatening this Toxapex right out of the gate, depending on what he wants to do. So he goes into Landorus Therian here, as I just go for a Doom Desire, I believe is what I do. Yeah, on his switch. Not to flex, but I kind of saw it coming. What I didn't see coming was Superpower on this Landorus, just because I thought he was going to set up rocks. So I went for the Rapid Spin, trying to flex even harder, because frankly, I was in a bit of a playful stance this first fight. So... what can I say? So he sends in his own Equilibra as I go into my Gyarados. Equilibra got nerfed recently, so it doesn't in fact have Toxic, and unless it's running, like, something interesting, it can't really hit Gyarados a ton immediately. So Gyarados can actually, you know, get in damage and then switch out into something else. So that's the thing with Equilibra. It doesn't have any way to cripple this thing as much, so that's fine with me. So he switches out back into Landorus Therian, gets off an Intimidate. As I just go for a Waterfall here, I realize that going for a Dragon Dance would be, like, idiotic here, because then he just sends this in. He sends in Victini, goes for what I assume he has Bolt Strike, and he still outspeeds me, knocks me out. So there's really no reason to not just go for immediate damage here. So I go into my Jumbao now, trace his Intimidate, get some stuff on him just to see what he's going to do. As he switches into his Toxapex, which is fine. He predicted my switch probably into Jumbao. So I just go back into Gyarados here on his knock, which is fine. I make the dumb play here. This is a mistake on my end to go for the Earthquake. I don't know what I was thinking as he Toxics me there. So now, of course, Gyarados still gets Toxic. That was a misplay on my end, and I completely acknowledge the fact that that was a horrible play. So I switch into Cart here, which, again, could have been risky, but, like, let's be real for a sec. He's not going to go for Scald on this Gyarados because the burn is already gone because he's Toxic, and clicking Earthquake again would do more damage, so obviously the play is to go into Tornadus. So I sort of thought he's either going to go into his Libra, or he's going to go into this, or he's either going to go into Landorus. And since yeah, so that's generally what happens. This cart play was mainly banking on him going into probably either Landorus or Equilibra here, not as much the Tornadus. So that's fine. I switch out into Heatran, and I'm just going to get up rocks here. I'm going to speed this up a little bit just so I can talk a little faster and get through this. So he goes for Hurricane here and then goes for a Knock, which does knock off my leftovers, but I do get my rocks up. And I do know that he's going to defog here, so I click Toxic to put this thing on a timer, forcing it to switch out every so often. So now what I can do is I go for a Protect on his probably U-turn, just to get a little bit more chip. And then I click Stealth Rock here, just because I know he's going to keep U-turning, and I just want any and all kinds of chip possible. So I do that, and then he probably, I think he expected me to switch into something else, but I stay in with Heatran as he goes for Psychic, which is a strange play, in my opinion. I guess he thought maybe I'd go into, like, Libra or something? I don't really know. But that allows me to just click Toxic again, really, really nicely on his end. Maybe that was also a scouting term for him, but he goes back into his Tornadus as I go into my Jumbao. That was meant to be a double, but it didn't really work the way I wanted to. I wanted him to go into Landorus there, but he didn't. So he goes now back in his thing and clicks Defog once again, as now I get in my Heatran, and I'm just going to click Stealth Rock again just to keep them up, because that's really my goal here. I want that chip so that I could eventually win with Kartana or Gyarados, as he goes for a Supersonic Sky Strike onto my Jumbao, so he baited me really well. Great play on his part. As I now go into Cart, knowing that I can knock this out with a Leaf Blade and get to +1. That was kind of the biggest thing right out of the gate. And then Victini comes in. I know that I'm still not going to be able to outspeed him because I'm banded, and I reveal that here, basically. So he just goes for V-Create here, and he's going to stay in spamming V-Create because he knows as soon as he switch out, he's going to get punished for it. Which, like, I get why, but, you know, kind of sucks. So I put him on a Toxic Timer just to, like, not let him keep doing that. And then I clicked Lava Plume again just to, like, do that, as I get the burn on Toxapex. That doesn't matter a ton in this fight, but it's still nice to have all the same, as now he goes for a Scald on my Gyarados, and what I could do here is DD up and just try to get as much damage off as possible. Instead, I just go for a Supersonic Sky Strike, and if my calcs were right, that was a roll, but it seems like this Toxapex was running more defense than my calc implied, so it doesn't knock it out. So at this point, I go for a Dragon Dance. Again, probably should have gone for a Dragon Dance in the first place, but, like, yeah, I didn't see that. And so at that point, this Toxapex is going to be able to outstall me here, and I kind of throw away my Gyarados. Again, I was not playing great this match, and I fully concede that I probably could have gone for Waterfall there on the obvious switch to, like, jabait me, you know? But that's fine. So I go into my Equilibra here, and he goes for Defog, and I whip out something magic. I whip out the Hidden Power Electric on this thing. So the thing about Hidden Power Electric on Equilibra is that Tornadus Therian is so prevalent in CAP right now that it can't really do anything immediate to Tornadus, and by the time you do get to Doom Desire, Tornadus can just U-turn out of there into something that'll live it. So what I like to have on Equilibra now is Hidden Power Electric, just so that it can hit Tornadus. I mean, I imagine something else would probably work, but Hidden Power Electric also has some nice chip damage on, like, Gyarados as well, or any of these other bulky water types. So it worked out nicely there. It's very niche, but hey, it could be something cool, who knows. So anyway, he brings in his Mega Latias, and I was not expecting it to have Surf, I guess. I thought it had Ice Beam, so that's why I was a little hesitant to switch in Tornadus there. In reality, I probably should have. I switched in Heatran here to get up rocks once again, just so that I can get the chip on Victini, because that's going to be the biggest thing. I can't let Victini switch in, if at all possible. He goes for the Calm Mind here, which is really smart. I try to double protect, but it doesn't really work out. So now I'm in a position where I'm down 2-4, but a lot of his team dies to Cart. So in theory, I could still win this if he does misplay and let me, like, set up with Cart. Mainly what I'm doing here is I would click U-turn into Cart on whatever hit and hope for a live. It was a roll here, so I had to... There's nothing I could do because Knockoff didn't kill either. So maybe that wasn't the greatest, but I was hoping maybe he would go for a Psychic just for the stab. Cart comes in. Unfortunately, Beast Boost doesn't work. But if he had gone into... at that point I had kind of lost, because if he goes into Toxapex, I can't knock that out. If he goes in Victini, that's going to outspeed me and kill. If he goes into Equilibra, I could probably knock that out with Sacred Sword, but then I'd have to switch out again in order to beat these guys. So it doesn't really work out well for me at all in this case, which is unfortunate. And I do end up taking the first loss here. Not to spoil it, because I was going to hit Hurricane, and maybe if I had hit Hurricane, that would have been something. But unfortunately, I missed Hurricane, and that's really going to be it, because Victini now can knock me out in one hit. So I drop the GG, take the L, and move on to Game 2 as Inigo Montoya kills knocks out the guy who killed his father. It's like got 6 fingers, you see. So, that was Game 1. Unfortunately, that is an L for me, so now we move into Game 2. Game 2, another Reach Zero team he's using with Kerf, so that's kind of fun. Yeah. And I figure at this point, okay, I have to play a little bit smarter, a little bit more conservatively, but I bring this weird Volturn team. Truth be told, I hadn't done a ton of testing with this team, so obviously if there are flaws with it, looking at it now, for example, it's pretty frail. Like, I don't have a ton that can switch in. I mean, I have this core here, which is Megatar, Rotom, and Tornadus, but it's not quite the same. So, again, we're going to start off. He leads Equilibra here, and I lead Volkraken. Again, just the same premise as before. It has U-turn. I'm going to probably click it. I don't want to play super risky right out of the gate, just because I do have something to lose in this match, because if I do lose, I'm out. So I have to play a little bit more conservatively. Otherwise, I probably would go for, like, a Hydro Pump here, but that's fine overall. So he goes into his Toxapex as I U-turn, which is fine, and I just go into my Rotom Wash. Now, this Rotom Wash is the Electrium Z set, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to lure him. I want to see what he wants to do to this Rotom. And there's some play here that you'll see as it's coming up, which is really interesting on my end. So I want to see what he's going to do. So I go for a Volt Switch here, but I didn't really think this through quite as well as I should have because I have nothing to switch into this that wants to take a Scald. So that was not a great idea on my end. But he goes for Toxic Spikes, which could be not too bad, but that's fine. So I Mega here and I go for Rocks as he Scalds and does get the burn, which, again, this is a misplay on my part. I was not playing in terribly smart at the start of this fight, because Megatar getting burned is not great. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not going to be able to trap Latias the way I want it to, so that's annoying. So Rotom here, I come in, and at this point, I go for Hydro Pump thinking that, okay, he's going to switch into something just because there's no way in hell he'd stay in on, like, you know, I don't know what he's thinking. Maybe he thinks I'll Wisp or something. But I really should have gone for Z-Thunder here because that would get the kill. Unfortunately, I didn't. And that's probably the biggest misplay I make in this early game aside from letting target burned. So I have to Volt Switch out again into Tornadus. And the Scald comes on, and it does get the bird on this bird as well. Which is frustrating because now I have 2 Pokemon burned and 1 toxic. So, yeah, let me just... Yeah, burn. No, never mind, I lied. Only 1. So he sends in his Equilibra here, and I just go for a knockoff, knocking off its AV, which is an interesting AV set, but it makes sense. So I go for a U-turn here, and I do go into my Megatar here, just to get some chip off on Equilibra, and in case he wants to Rapid Spin, I can still set up Rocks. But he goes into Pex here as I go for a Fire Punch on it. Again, I'm just trying to get chip. I get the burn on Toxapex, which is kind of nice, if only because I did get some Scald hacks before. Obviously, getting a burn up from Fire Punch sucks, as you can see right there. So I go to my Rotom again, as he goes for Scald, and at this point, I'm like, okay, fine, I'm just going to do Z-Thunder, because, like, there's nothing to lose. Except he switches out into Pharaoh this time. So he must have caught on, which kind of sucks. So I really did not play that lure well at all. And that's one of those things, again, I should have done it the second time, not the third time. Because by the third time, he may have caught on. But that's okay, because now I'm in with Cart, and this is, again, Banded Cart here and Scarful Kraken. So I go for a knockoff here. He wasn't expecting that. Frankly, this probably could be Scarf, and that would be fine. But I really like Banded on this, just because it does give me a way to sort of break through things a bit more. So I go for a knockoff here. And he did not see that coming at all, because that will now knock that out. So he goes into Kerf here as I just click Knock again, because I know that Knock would knock out the Toxapex. I do get the crit, which is a little unfortunate, but I do sack this Tar to whatever Kerf wants to do, and it does go for an all-out pummeling, so it does work out pretty well in my favor to do that. So I'm really happy that that worked out. So now I go into my Gren, and at this point, I can sort of threaten with Hydro Pump, and here's the thing, right? He expected me to spike there, and I assume he probably went for a Moonblast on my spikes because, you know, some players have a tendency to overpredict and overplay. Snore has been very aware of this through the first match and this match, like, making those plays or, like, expecting someone to expect a double or something. So I had to make this big brain play and go for Hydro Pump. If it missed, I would have lost my Greninja. It was not a roll, so I knew that at least, but, like, at this point, I was playing with accuracy a little bit there, maybe making a bit of a riskier play, but if I knock out Kerf, then now I have less to worry about with this, and with Rotom too. Because Kerf is just like an enigma sometimes, so it's hard to know. So I wanted it out of there as soon as possible, and if I can make that play, that was really good for me, because now I get Battle Bond on this Gren too, meaning that I'll be able to hit harder on Tapu Lele, on Latias, on Equilibra, even on Toxapex. Speaking of which, that does come in. So I send in my Tornadus. I do a double, actually. No, I don't. I just switch in. And I go for a Defog here just to get rid of any Toxic Spikes, because I know if I can play a little bit of chicken with him, on like him sending in Toxic Spikes, I might be able to get in something for free, which is kind of nice. So I go for a U-turn here on his Recover, and I send in Rotom, or excuse me, his Scald, which is fine. I don't want Tornadus getting burned. Rotom getting burned is fine. So I go for a Thunder, and it connects. It doesn't knock it out, unfortunately, though I don't think that was in range anyway, so it's fine. So I'm spamming Thunder here just to, like, get any chip that I can, because I realize that Rotom is not going to be doing much more in this fight otherwise, which is fine. So I go into Tornadus Therian here on his Rocks, which is good, and now I can threaten the Defog, which is really nice as well. But he goes into Tapu Lele, which is interesting, because I thought he would go into Toxapex here. But I get rid of entry hazards, and Lele comes in, but now I realize I can't switch anything in without it dying, so he goes for Psychic. Rotom. I'm assuming it's specs based on his team, just because his team is much faster now. He does have this. This is kind of fast, but not really. But it's clear that this team doesn't have a Scarf, so it's possible that it was Scarf as well. But either way, that means it's choiced. So meaning I have a free switch in with Greninja either way, and I can just click Hydro Pump and get a lot of chip. I don't know if he was expecting me to go for like Dark Pulse on that Toxapex prediction, but whatever. I don't know why he didn't go into Pharaoh either there, but I go into my Volkraken here, now really threatening this, and I just go for Fire Blast, because if he does stay in, that's a dead Pharaoh. If not, that's like chip on Toxapex. Oh no, we're gonna get more music soon. Ah, shit. Yeah. So anyway, like I was saying, so now we go in, he sends in Layla again. At this point, I have to figure out another thing that I'm probably gonna have to sack. So I figure that Volkraken is probably going to be the least of my usefulness here, just because I do still have Kartana to beat Ferrothorn. So worst case scenario, Banded Cart will definitely knock this out, especially even if it's like a +1 knockoff, it'll knock it out. So I go into Volkraken expecting like another Psychic, but he goes for Moonblast. I think that's a choke on his part, because unless I went for Gren here, which I guess was possible, like, I guess that's what he was expecting I'd do, he gets a kill with Psychic on half of my Mons, and chipping Kartana incredibly much. So I figured the best way to do this was just, like, go into Volkraken. So I U-turn here, and I go into my Tornadus here, because I know that will I'll be able to sack my Tornadus now that I'm not worried about entry hazards anymore, and I go into Cart, and at this point I click Knockoff, and start the sweep. Because at this point now, +1, he goes into Pharaoh. I don't know if he expected to live or he thought this was Scarf. The crit didn't matter there. I actually can guarantee that crit didn't matter, because now I'm at +2, and Latias comes in, and at this point I'm really worried, but he says that he's only got Psychic. I believe him. I just go for it. Even if, so that's really lucky for me. So I do get that +3, and then +4. +3 does knock out this Toxapex, so I do get the Game 2 win, which is really nice, because now we get into the exciting final matchup, which is really, really cool. So, basically now we're going into the last fight, and this is my worst nightmare come to fruition, because this team I had literally built the day before while I was in lecture, and I had never tested it. And it's you know, it's facing up against Stall. Luckily, when I have a team that's in this situation, I almost always, when it's Pajantum, when you're building around Pajantum, Equilibra, Tyranitar, you really just like shit on Stall to no end. And then additionally, since this is AV Tar and this is Megazard Y, these two also work really well for some roll compression, coupled with Rocker Clefable. Or is that? Yeah, it is Rocks. And then Scarf Cart, not banned. You know, this has a really good matchup against Stall. So this is a winnable game. Immediately, my first thought is like, okay, I can win this game as long as I keep Pajantum alive, and then I also use Cart effectively, because Cart's always a win condition. If you need a win condition, use Nocturna or Cart, I guess. Also, Zard Y is going to be really helpful against like Mega Aggron, just like putting dents in the team. So that's kind of my mindset going in. So I just have to make really smart plays. And as you can see, he's like mad that I have Pajantum on the team. So I lead with Fable. He leads with Aggron, as I'm expecting him to just go Heavy Slam or something. He goes for Rocks. I send in Libra. I'm Levitate Libra too, so literally that thing can't really touch me that much. So I just go for a Rapid Spin and switch in Pajantum if he wants a Toxic or Seismic Toss. That's fine. And that Chansey can't do anything to Pajantum. So I put a heal block on that, so that Fable isn't going to do much to me either once I switch into Equilibra. So he goes back into Chansey, and there's just going to be a lot of switching. So I go for a DD here just because, like, it's probably going to be a call. As I go in Pajantum now to really threaten this Chansey again as he goes into Aggron. And now I switch into Zard on his Protect because he thought Protect would block the Doom Desire maybe? It doesn't. So now I get a free switch into Chard, I get a free Mega into Zard Y, and I get a free Flamethrower on anything on his team. Like, nothing on his team wants to take anything from this thing. So I just go into Pajantum here. On his Toxic, and Jesus, like, Pajantum is so good at countering Stall, it's great. So I literally go for Heal Block again on Fable, so Clef can't click Wish or anything, as I send in my own Clefable and on his Chansey, and I go set up Rocks here. Setting up Rocks is crucial for me because he doesn't have, like, a Mega Sableye, he doesn't have Mega Magic Bounce, it's fine. This or this is going to be his Defogger. I would imagine it's probably this because I haven't faced this team in a while, but Mega Aggron Stall, I mean, It's just kind of an iconic team. So basically, I I send in Libra here on like his wish. Now that it's not heal blocked, I click Doom Desire here because that's really important. And I calc this. I actually go for Earth Power here on this Alomomola, and this thing definitely can't stay in on an Earth Power plus a Doom Desire, so he goes into Chansey. Excuse me. So I go for an Earth Power here, and Earth Power gets the Spadef drop, which is huge, because then Doom Desire does 34, and then Earth Power will knock out this Chansey. So that's crazy, and Snore Rage quits after that. So I do get the Game 3 win, because Equilibra is too good, and, you know, even after the nerf, Equilibra is still a really good mon. So I move on into the second round of the CAP Autumnal, whatever the hell it's called, I don't even know, Fall Seasonal Tournament, I guess it is. But yeah, so if you enjoyed this video, if you liked this tournament commentary, whatnot, let me know. Give me a like and hit that bell, you know. And hopefully we'll stick around for more matches going forward. And yeah, feel free to steal these teams, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, that's all for me. Until next time.